Grand rising, and clean up this stuff a little bit. Uh, Good morning, Detroit. A lot of my subscribers, they wanted me to weigh in on the overturn of Roe v. Wade and abortion rights in this country. And as you can see in my title, I said abortion rights overturned in the New World Order. In one of my earlier podcasts, I said the New World Order came from Friedrich Nietzsche and the Germans, and it became a Masonic word that they used, you know. And another one they use is out of chaos comes order. So we're going to tie this in to Roe v. Wade and what you see going on in government. Now, to deal with this issue, we're going to have to really talk real. You know, I was born in 1966, before abortion was legal. My mother didn't want kids, so she tried to abort me several times. Later found out that created trauma in the womb for the children that were survived that. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't go to a doctor. You had to go to some lady in the neighborhood with a hanger trying to scrape the baby out, because women didn't want those children that they were trying to abort that bad. All these unwanted children became the savages and the so-called monsters that you see in the street right now, because they were born and never wanted, and they didn't ask to be here. So what are they doing now? Forcing women to have children that they don't want. And the solution is birth control, which is some other medicine or something they got to take. It's about controlling their bodies. As a man, no one's going to control my body. You know, so I'm gonna say abortion is a moral issue based on the people or the circumstances and who it is. But the agenda is a new world order. As you look out in the streets and you see all the young people being purged, the millennials, they're destroying the millennials. The millennials are being destroyed outright. The baby boomers are dying out. Generation X, people in my age group, we're struggling, but they're killing us too. And what the New World Order does is they destroy one civilization, destroy a whole civilization, and then build on the ashes and build on top of that. Now, when they started letting women have abortions, it forced a lot of men who wanted children to have no say-so in the kids they produced in the womb, because the woman had rights over her body and her womb. So if the man wanted the child, there's nothing he could say if she wanted an abortion. There's nothing he could say if she kept the baby. If she kept the baby and he didn't want it, he still had to pay child support. Then child support was later criminalized. Think about that. If he didn't want the baby and she wanted the baby, he still was penalized. But if he wanted the baby and she didn't want the baby, then he was penalized. At the top core of this issue is about who's going to control what you do with your body and with your mind. You think about when the pandemic came and they tried to force people, to get the shot. They was firing people. People were losing their job, but they didn't get the shot. So they was taking control over your body then, deciding who gets medicine. And if you don't take the medicine, this is what happens. It's about control again. Black people voted this president in. and this vice president in. They didn't look at their track record. They didn't take into account he had called us super predators, said we were animals. He was against integration. You know what I mean? You put somebody in there who just never could stand black people, period, based on his track record, based on his own words. Then you expected him to be a champion of women's rights and women's issues, and they did nothing on that front either. Because at the end of the day, we were always targeted for marginalization and destruction. What do you do with ex-slaves after slavery? They become obsolete. They become a reminder of guilt. They become something that you don't even want to look at. You want to get rid of them. And how do you get rid of them? You let them destroy themselves. You put drugs in their community. You put guns in their community. You take the mothers out the home. You take the fathers out the home. You put the fathers in prison. Put the mothers at the jobs. And the children raise themselves. And what you see is a generation of children who have raised themselves and are destroying themselves on a daily basis. And out of nowhere, they decide to overturn Roe versus Wade. They've been working on this for decades to overturn Roe versus Wade. Because they're going to have to build some type of civilization after they destroy the present one. And that's what it's about. That's why they want to teach critical race theory. This is why they're changing history and changing the narrative in the ninth inning. Because they finna reconstruct and become architects of this new virtual metaverse society where everybody is tuned in. And, women are outraged about somebody telling them what they going to do with their bodies. And I understand that. You know what I mean? I understand that because they've always used religion to oppress women. Ever since King James let them put the story of Adam and Eve and sin into the world through a woman, they've been using religion and morality to oppress women. And men who claim to be religious men or whatever, who still follow white Judeo-Christian ethic, they coming out, I'm not for abortion, I'm against abortion. But these are the same men who won't take care of their children and won't stand up as men in society to stop the youth from killing themselves. But they're against abortion. So they just populating people because it's mandatory. If you have sex and you get pregnant, it's going to be mandatory for you to have the child. And of course, we'll say, well, use protection, close your legs, all these cliches that people are not going to do. They're not going to do. But the key thing about it is, if you see what happened during the pandemic, and you see the laws, you see that they're finna come against the guns, so you won't be able to protect yourself. You won't be able to have control over your body. You'll have doctors and politicians telling you what to do. And at the same time, you'll be being oppressed. And they up in arms, the women are. Black women were always tricked into the feminist movement, which was not intended for them. Because Becky and Karen were just as oppressive as their counterparts. Even to this day, you don't see white women socializing with black women. You know what I mean? They'll smile and they'll be cordial, but there is no unity between that. Just like even in other communities like the LGBT community, they experience racism within their own movement because this country is divided among racial lines. So what does Roe versus Wade being overturned look for black people? Are they going to bring back the old ladies with the hangers performing abortions in their kitchens because women keep getting pregnant and don't want children? Some women are not fit to be mothers. They destroy children. They create children that wreak havoc on society when you produce a child that's unwanted. And if a woman is that callous to where she doesn't even have any maternal or natural instincts or inclinations toward raising a child, what type of person is she? There's so many ramifications of this that I think you got to really dissect it and think of every aspect. Do you want unfit mothers, women incapable of loving children, having babies? In Detroit, one woman put her 3-year-old baby in the freezer last week. In Roseville, a woman babysitter beat an infant to death. Last week, older guy tried to shoot a man holding a 7-month-old baby. So if us as black people are allowing our youth to be destroyed, we're destroying our youth and each other. What does overturning Roe versus Wade even mean to us at this point? But it's chaos. And remember what they say, out of chaos comes order. Out of chaos comes order. They create all this chaos, and I'll tell you, they destroy a civilization. They break it all the way down, and then they build something new. And what they build it on now is going to be a whole nother generation of babies forced here. Forced here. They're going to criminalize even more illegal abortion. So they're going to criminalize women who go that route as an option, which is a whole nother level of criminalization. Like when they started taking black men to jail for child support. Did nobody see anything wrong with that? You want to arrest the father, take his license for child support, put him in jail. How can he be a father if he's in jail? It costs almost $40,000 a year to house a prisoner, and you're gonna put him in there instead of putting him in a position to make the $40,000 and take care of his kid. That was by design. That was by design. So now they're forcing women or trying to force women to keep babies that they may not want. And a lot of us on this planet, we came in this world unwanted and wreaked havoc. A lot of these unwanted children are the killers and the thugs and the people that keep you scared from going to the gas station or the grocery store. But at the same time, the agenda is still the same. The agenda is still the same. They've shown you that they have annihilated the middle class. So you have working poor and rich people. The working poor are losing a whole generation of their youth to violence, drugs, a host of other social ills. They have to the rich people have to replace that working class. after they scrapped the old one. The old one ain't working out, let's scrap it. Well, what if they don't want to produce? They got all they haven't. Well, we change the law, force them to produce babies, which would be the new working class, and get rid of the old one that had ties to slavery and ties to reparations and ties to other things in this country that really have a claim for rights in this country. Let them die out. Let them go the way of the dinosaur. And it's real. If you don't see it, you're just not paying attention. You want to see something else, or you're looking at it through some type of religiosity. You know what I mean? Or religious ideas that they gave you when they taught you Christianity and taught you religion, which was all a form of control, behavioral control. Also, all that idea about an unseen God in the sky, that came from Plato. That's why they call it New Platonic thought. Plato said to the Greeks, he said, with all our education and our study, we still are trying to control the masses through brutality. So he created this moral code and put a God in the sky that seen you do something, even if you was in the dark in the closet, he's still seeing you do it. And the fear of him was enough to curtail behavior while they reconstructed laws that coincided with their idea of this new world. That was a creation of a new world order. This world has been destroyed and recreated countless times in the history of this planet. Countless civilizations have disappeared. And you don't think it's possible? When you look at all the deaths and all the destruction that you see, you don't think it's possible for the destruction of a whole civilization? All you got to think about is, where are all the Indians that were here before the colonializer came? You know, you got some on a reservation, some remnants of what used to be Native Americans, but you got to realize there was a whole country full of them before they put the ones that they didn't destroy on reservations. You watch the prison industrial complex decimate the 80s. And it seems you still underestimate your enemy when he attacks you psychologically. They spend billions of dollars on psychological operations in this country. They spend more money on psychological operations in this country than they do on weaponry. That's a fact. So when it comes to overturning Roe versus Wade, it's just another piece in the puzzle as they construct a new world order. And you got to determine what your place in it is going to be. You know what I mean? Are you going to be a rebel, a revolutionary? Or are you going to toe the company line and do what the colonializers say do? So I understand why women is up in arms about Roe versus Wade, because blatantly someone is telling them exactly what they can and do, what they can and cannot do with their bodies. That's going so far back that if you think about it, that's going so far back in women's rights. Do you think they could take us back to slavery? Because the 13th Amendment of the Constitution makes slavery legal in certain cases. That's still in the Constitution, in the 13th Amendment, where they authorize slavery in certain instances. Then they got the King Alfred Act, which allows them to come get people and put them in concentration camps during the time of civil unrest. So all the pieces is in play to control a whole society and bring them to heel. Should all women be forced to have babies? Some, like as I said before, some women don't have mother instincts. They don't bond with kids. They destroy kids. They destroy them psychologically. They destroy them emotionally. And they create a society of chaos from the womb. Should they have options? Or are you going the route of the moral hypocrisy and saying, this is what God said, this is what God said? They love to tell you what God said to them. You know what I mean? They love to have you thinking about what God said to them. But me, honestly, I think women need to have a right over their own bodies. And I know it goes against the religious hypocrisy, but they don't speak against government. They don't speak against anything that's going to threaten a 501c3. So who cares what they say? Because their morality has proven to be non-existent. If they could take women's rights in this country, they can take children's rights, they can take men's rights, they can take it all. And they can build this new world order without us, because they already got some plan on the back burner to repopulate. And then they can repopulate now with their genetics they can repopulate just like Hitler wanted to do and create the blonde-eyed, blue-haired Aryans that they want to create. All they got to do is go in the lab, fertilize these women, let these die out, and you will see a whole new people in this country. You know, YouTube is curtailing a lot of positive messages that's giving you information. So I'm gonna need everybody that's a subscriber to like and share the video. Like and share the video. We got to get information in the algorithm. We gotta get all this nonsense. You know what I mean? That got to take the back burner for a minute, because if you're looking at what the women are saying as it relates to their rights, and you're looking at your children being purged and destroyed, and there's no solution, you can't see that they are orchestrating a plan. None of this is by happenstance. They've been working on Roe versus Wade for over 40 years, for decades, trying to overturn this decision. Do you think it's coincidental that they put the first black woman on the Supreme Court? The first black woman on the Supreme Court, in the same year she gets there, they overturn women's rights. The first so-called black woman that becomes a vice president says to the black community she's not going to do anything for black people. Come on, y'all. You can't see that this is a plan, and we're falling into a head first. You got all this gender division and all this other stuff going on in social media to distract you from the fact that you being led in a direction that there will be no return for in our lifetime. So again, like, share, and subscribe, share the video. Peace. Coming out of Detroit, Grand Rising.